was there a bear trap? Hey!
Oh, Jesus! Oh!
Holy shit.
I don't like the idea of this part at all.
What is that?
That's a dead person.
The return of Scott the Waz reactions. It has been quite some time since we've reacted to Mr. Wozniak.
Scotty too hottie.
And also the network that was hosting his stuff on terrestrial television has taken quite the hit. Again, the fact that I was hyped for the return of G4. I remember when they announced it was coming back, I'm like, wow, I wonder who they're going to bring on. I wonder what all is going to happen. And you know what? They made some good choices. The Completionist, Scott the Waz. What's up?
I'm not patting myself on the back again or anything. I told you.
You called it. Again, Chad made the prediction a while back about what was going to happen to G4.
It just didn't look like G4. The two and Adam Sessler that you had mentioned were the only gleaming light of the situation as far as I could see
and
it.
of course, friggin' Austin Creed, a.k.a.
Xavier Woods.
Xavier Woods.
Yeah, of course. Up, down, down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, there were a few other standouts that I actually thought were really good. But then something had
The new faces.
One of them in particular had to really rear their ugly head.
Yeah.
And just shit all over any future that G4
Anybody
had.
and everybody.
Yes. And basically just murdered any... isn't it amazing that hot takes are such a dying art form when it comes to attracting viewership? Because there's a reason why ESPN's terrestrial viewership is going down the shitter. Everyone says, oh, the only reason ESPN's staying afloat is because of Stephen A. Smith. He's the one that gave birth to this fucking bullshit. And people are getting sick of it.
Yeah.
That's why people aren't tuning in anymore. And that's every time I see Stephen A. I respect the man to a certain extent as a television presenter, but when your same shtick is literally like someone asks a question and then you sit there, you're just like, I just want to say real quick before we move on that it's like you know exactly where it's going. A shitty hot take.
Mm-hmm.
A shitty hot take that is going to wind up pissing people off and is going to keep drawing people... Except it's not doing that much anymore. And when Frosk pulled this shit, I guarantee you Frosk had it in her mind that this was going to draw people in because, the channel needed a villain for everyone to rally around. No, because Frosk made a very, very bad decision when she talked shit. Don't like it, don't watch it. Saying that, you basically eliminated the fourth wall and took yourself out of it. Like, for instance, Chad's great at being a villain when he wants to be. On here, you know him as They Call Me Hat Guy. But out there, they know him as the loaded gun Chad Bartlett. And when he has a microphone in his hand, in that wrestling ring, he will make you forget that you are at a wrestling show, and he will make you hate him because of just how good he is at drawing you in with his heel behavior. If Chad all of a sudden said, hey, this is a wrestling show, and I got the microphone and I'm talking, you don't like it, then you can just leave. It's like...
That doesn't do much.
No.
What happened essentially in that circumstance is you had somebody who was put into a position that they were used to tokenize and pander. I'm just going to call it for what it is, and without any vetting for how qualified they were to entertain people and make people interested in conversations about video games. And it became less about what people were tuning in for, which was conversations about video games, and more of a moral talking down to on someone's opinion and someone's singular experience.
And also, here's the one thing people... I've dealt with hate. People can say, oh, like, you haven't dealt with hate on the same... No, I've dealt with hate. I've been called fat. I've been told to end my life multiple times. I was going to say, if I had a penny for it, I'd probably have, like, about $10,000 in my account. And, I've been called every name in the book, and people...
Well, you've suffered an insane amount of bullying, not just online either, like in real life.
Well, and that's the thing. I don't hold that against the whole population. Instead, whenever someone says something, I single that person out and I call them an asshole. Whereas, if you have someone online call you this, say, oh, get back in the kitchen, stop doing this, stop doing... And then all of a sudden you just throw a cascade over everyone out there who you assume to be the person who offended you. It's like, oh, this person was obviously a man, he was obviously white, and he was obviously a gaming elitist. I'm going to call out all the, white gaming male elitists. And guess what? By doing that, you have effectively burned the house down with your own fucking match.
Well, with all the divisive stuff that goes on, I tune into something like G4 to be removed from that.
Yes.
If I wanted to be in the thick of that kind of a thing, then I would tune in to people who are, advertising that that's what they're about. But when you go to a candy store and somebody hands you a fucking plate full of salad, you're going to be like, I'm not going to this fucking candy store anymore. Why would I? This is no longer a candy store.
Oh, and when you don't like the salad that you've been given, they don't like it, then don't come back. There you go. Which sucks for Scott. It sucks for the completionist. It sucks for Xavier Woods. It sucks for everybody who really had a chance to make something out of G4. Yep. It sucks for the legacy of G4 because before this, it was a sacred spot in my heart and in the nostalgic mind of me and many other people. Yep.
And it really sucks that, I'm not going to blame Frosk for the entire downfall. I thought that it was a shit show to begin with, but that was my opinion, even though we didn't agree on it. And I felt like the new faces could have done something for it, but I think that fucking the completionist, Xavier Woods, Scott the Waz are better off without it.
They don't need... Well, that's the thing. They never needed it to begin
with.
with.
They're better off without it.
They were already successful without it. Xavier actually made Up, Up, Down, Down so successful that the WWE got mad and bought it off of him just so that they were making the most money off of it and not him.
Yeah.
And...
Which is pretty predatory in my opinion, but that is what it is.
And then, of course, you look at Scott the Waz, who, in spite of not playing the game, the online game of, social media, like being a social media pariah.
Yeah.
He's just made his own way and cultivated a fan base that is dedicated, but not overbearingly rabid like some fan bases. He's cultivated
it's pretty
a great
chill,
fan.
honestly.
Yes, it is. And same thing with the completionist. Gerard has cultivated a fan base that loves video games. And Gerard himself has tried to remain as apolitical as possible because that's not what he does this for. You don't have to make everything political. And there was actually someone who actually commented when I was talking about The Last of Us Part 2, and how it got a little bit, the political stuff that Neil Druckmann was trying to push and everything. The person was just like, you do realize that politics has actually been in games for a while? Have you never seen Metal Gear Solid? And here's what I said. I'm like, yeah, there's such a thing as subtlety. When the game introduces ideas to you and shows you the benefits of these potential ideas, that's called, and it handles it with grace and it weaves it in effortlessly without sacrificing the art, you've got something. But when the politics literally smacks you in the back of the head and gets pissed off when you don't like getting smacked in the back of the head, then you're not doing it right. And that's effectively what we have nowadays. Yeah, how do we get on this topic? Oh yeah, Scott the Waz G4 and all
G4.
that. But
Yeah.
we're talking about also in this dual releases.
Oh.
So, dual releases, there's been several that I've taken part in. You know, Pokemon, probably the most infamous. You know, red and blue and yellow. Well, technically yellow is an offshoot of those two. But because it was on Game Boy Color, it was a lot of people's favorite.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you know, Pokemon's been doing it forever.
Battle Network.
Oh,
Mega
yeah.
Man did a bunch of them.
Then Legend of Zelda. Oracle
Zelda,
of Ages,
yep.
Oracle of Seasons.
Game Boy Color.
Yeah. And dual releases, I think, are a good thing.
Was it
especially-
Devil Children, the SMT? They had a black and a
so.
white one Game
Yeah.
Boy game back in the day. It's usually the handhelds that did it the most.
And console ones, I can't really think of many, if any.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some.
There's
I would
one
have
some
to
that we're not, like...
ponder.
Oh, I know. Sonic and Knuckles and Sonic the Hedgehog 3. You had to have both
Yep.
of them in order to play the full game.
That's true.
I remember that. And, oh man. I also remember that Sonic and Knuckles attachment pack where you
Yep.
could plug it in and it would reprogram Sonic 2 where you were playing as Knuckles. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah.
I loved that. But anyway, yeah, so dual releases by Scott the Waz. Let's go ahead and give this a watch. Here we go, ladies. and
Oh,
gentlemen.
yeah.
Therapy delivery.
Oh, thank God it came.
Better than your uncle's ambulance.
Well, it came cold.
I think there's something wrong with me. I'm seeing double.
Nah, you're not seeing double. You're just in the head.
Oh, thank God. I'm such a big fan. Wait, now I am.
Gosh, the gamer cries. There's no passion in the video game industry these days. Unlike back then, all they do now is re-release the same game over and over again.
Damn it, Todd.
Let's talk.
How do we increase our profits?
It's called theft.
Or you could just do what you're already doing. Again!
This is not helping my case.
Have you ever wondered why Pokemon games come in twos? I mean, it's something we're so used to at this point. It's strange when they don't. Two games releasing on the same day, but they're so damn similar. It's like they're each a different side of the same coin. Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue. What's the difference between them? I don't know. Turns out the real difference is that mine is better. Yes, the dual release. Some may call it an outdated strategy, but I won't say no to another method of size debate. So what's the point of this, and why don't they do it elsewhere? Well, see, if you release two different Pokemon games with minute differences, most people just pick the one with the cover art they like the most. More diehards will pick the one they find to have the more compelling distinctions, and those who need help will buy both. One of the biggest reasonings behind doing a dual release is the two different versions of the game communicating in some way. So some things you can only get in Pokemon Red, well, if a Pokemon Blue player links up with a Pokemon Red player, you can trade to get those Red exclusives in your Blue.
Thus,
That's the only way you could truly get all 150.
Yeah. I thought that
Or
it was a good
151
idea.
if you had the Mew special.
It promoted not only for people to buy more than one of the same game almost, but it also made you want to play it with your friends.
Yes, you both. It's like, okay, so which ones are you lacking of the full 150? It's like, oh, I'm lacking this one, this one, this one. Hey, I've got those in my Pokemon library. Tell you what, I'll trade those with you. You'll get those in there. And which ones do you have? Okay, we'll do that. Let's trade these. Let's fill out our again.
Trading Kadabra and trading Haunter to get Gengar and Alakazam.
There you go.
Always a good thing.
But
Do you create a sensation where players are incredibly defensive towards the version they picked, which encourages more discussion on the games, a deeper connection towards the series, and excuses?
well, I picked Pokemon Blue because Red is too much for me to handle right now.
Pokemon is obviously the most iconic example of this strategy. You may know that, as it's the only example I've given. Not sure if this would have been a great opener. All of the traditional mainline Pokemon titles follow this format, starting with the launch of Pokemon Red and Green in 1996, only in Japan. Yeah, Red and Green. Odd choices for initial colors. Should have gone with Pokemon Orange and Light Pink. Later on, they released Pokemon Blue as an updated third version, which also became a Pokemon staple. Here in North America, we ended up just getting Red and Blue, which those colors are sworn enemies, making those the dual release over here encourage more debate amongst players of what color to get. Especially considering Pokemon was brand new here, the fact that certain elements were exclusive to each version didn't matter nearly as much. Yeah, Mankey's only in Pokemon Red. Thank God I picked blue. So the entire point of Pokemon is to try and catch them all, get all the Pokemon. That tagline alone some kids up for life. It's on the box for each version, yet you can't catch them all in either one of these games. The only way is to have a friend with an alternate color, or the easier solution, buy another game. Don't forget a second Game Boy link cable. Believe me, this is what many actually do with every new Pokemon release. It really makes you think. I should re-download Tinder. This was meant to encourage players of Pokemon to interact with each other, like people. Now, did you really need to release the game as two separate but nearly identical versions? Well, let's be fair, that Game Boy link cable was really only ever utilized in a head-to-head multiplayer sort of deal. Pokemon was frankly pretty damn revolutionary for allowing you to swap the things you've collected in-game with another player.
Pretty badass,
Oh,
honestly.
yeah. Set things on your cartridge. It was ingenious, something that really wasn't done before. And while you would still have incentive to do that if there was just one Pokemon game available, having two made it 100% necessary to link up and trade in order to get everything. Also, it just fit the Pokemon series, getting to pick your starter Pokemon at the beginning, just after getting to pick your favorite color, stone, letter, and Pokemon Red and Blue, plus Green in Japan, really did a lot for these letters. Well, not in that order. Do you ever see when something is popular, others copy it, but they copy the wrong thing? Like, oh, Pokemon just hit it big, and why is that? 2 games, colors, and negligence. So many series have attempted the dual release.
Yeah.
Hey, if Pokemon does it, why can't Bomberman? There are laws, you know. Now, Nintendo themselves, they tried applying this format to some of their other franchises, most notably
That worked.
The Legend of Zelda, with the games Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages. 2 games released right alongside each other that would connect, though unlike Pokemon, these are both different games. They may be cut from the same cloth and have numerous shared elements, but playing one Oracle game does not mean you played the other. These games fundamentally construct a two-parter, though the order in which you play them doesn't matter. Beating one gives you a code to enter in the other to continue on and get the full experience. It isn't like how in Pokemon games the only difference is I'm wearing a hat this time. No, this is a very unique and cool take on the dual release format. It doesn't feel like they're trying to piggyback on Pokemon's success, rather put their own spin on having 2 games released at the same time. It showed that if Nintendo was going to do more dual releases, they weren't just going to do something like different Pokemon in each game. They were going to do it with dogs. Nintendogs on the Nintendo DS released in 3 variants at launch, each with different dog breeds to pick from. Which dog did you choose? Squirtle. Turns out Nintendo wanted this to feel like you were picking a dog from the pound, so initially the idea was to have 15 separate versions of Nintendogs for each breed on shelves at once.
Cockroach, you see him?
I did. Hold
Initially
on.
the idea was to have 15...
There's a few here. Cockroach.
Oh my God, the Basset Hound. No.
Yeah. Oh God, this motherfucker.
Yeah.
Someone needs a trimming.
Very funny.
Oh man. Wire fox hair, specifically the wire fox hair. Wow.
In separate versions of Nintendogs for each breed on shelves at once. Thankfully, they narrowed it down to 3, with each variant just having different types of dogs at the start, with all the others from the separate versions unlockable later on, so there's really no need to buy all editions.
And yet, here we are!
Where?
How?
Nintendogs Best Friends would launch
Kinda.
later on, that featured the most popular breeds available at the start, with, just like the others, the rest of them unlockable later, like the Pugs. So it's fundamentally a Nintendogs Greatest Hits that just gets worse as it goes on.
Oh.
I don't like the Pugs. Then Nintendogs Dalmatian and Friends release. Same deal as before. You know, for a game with no necessary addition to have 5 versions, this game has 5 versions. And they did it all again with Nintendogs plus Cats on the Nintendo 3DS. So they launched that with 3 and kept it to that number. I assume Nintendogs on the DS got so many additions due to the sheer popularity of it all. And on the
Oh
3DS,
my God.
not so much. But that didn't stop Nintendo from attempting a multi-version release with another one of their franchises.
Oh.
In 2016, we got Fire Emblem Fates. Plural, 2 games, Fate's Birthright and Fate's Conquest. The gimmick of this game's story is that you're blood related to one family while having being raised by another, and these 2 families are at war with each other, so you have to decide who you fight alongside. A great concept for a story, no doubt, but I feel like they kind of squander that potential by releasing the game in this way. Your choice as to who to fight with is made via purchasing one game over another. Birthright is siding with the family you were born with, Conquest the family that raised you. So you expect me to make this decision without actually playing the game or knowing the characters? Wouldn't it make more sense to just make this a standard Fire Emblem game and a few hours in after the story kicks off and you get to know everybody? That's when you have to make your decision? A decision that's supposed to be this impactful moment you personally feel passionate about? A decision that the entire game's concept is based around? And you expect me to make it in a Target? Plus, both games are basically the exact same for the first few chapters until the player character makes their decision on who they side with a few hours in, which just emphasizes to me how this would feel so much better as a decision made in-game rather than in the store. That's not to say there isn't enough content in both Birthright and Conquest to warrant them being separate releases. No, I mean, they're both full games in their own right, with different stories and scenarios. But in my opinion, they're only full games in their own right from like a checklist perspective. Like, 30 hours each, unique plot lines, different scenarios, but you don't really get the same experience just playing one side of the story here. So like, yeah, it's not like this isn't a full game's worth of content, but that doesn't mean it isn't 1/3 of a full game at its core. Because there was a third version released. This one was only available as downloadable content. Fire Emblem Fates Revelation, where you try to get both families to work together. And all 3 versions were bundled together on a single Nintendo 3DS cartridge, exclusively in the Fire Emblem Fates Special Edition.
Damn.
This is the shit that really bothers me with modern games, dude. It's like a game never releases and you just never get the best version of it. And if you do get the best version of it, it gets re-released 2 years later for like $20 without like an inflatable fucking toilet cover or something. Like, I mean, it's just, here's some stickers and inflatable toilet cover in the box it all comes in, and it's $355 fucking dollars for no reason.
Yeah. You remember when Modern Warfare 2 released with fucking actual working night vision goggles?
I heard about that.
I actually know someone who had them. They worked. You could see up to 60 feet in front of you with night vision.
Question.
Uh-huh.
What the fuck does that have to do with video games? And why can't you just go buy night vision goggles if that's what you want and put a Call of Duty sticker on them?
I don't know.
It's all this, like, I went to college for music business. I got a bachelor's degree in music business. And one of the things that they taught us about the entertainment industry was these VIP exclusive, like, limited edition things to tag on shit to make it super expensive and make people feel like they were getting some kind of ultimate value out of it. And it is a gimmick. It is a lie. It is bullshit, and it does nothing. Like, do you know what happens if you own that box and that box of shit is sitting there on your little fucking thing? If you're not some huge, outrageously big fan of Fire Emblem, and it just fills you with joy every time you lay your eyes on it, you have a dusty fucking box that nobody cares about but you, and when you go and try and sell it on the internet, it may take you a long time, and you probably won't get all that money from it that you think that it's worth.
Yeah.
It is, this kind of shit is just a money draw, and it is a gimmick to trick you into thinking that you need something like this when you fucking don't.
No, you don't. Oh, well. That is, man.
Yeah, this pretty much confirmed the split release was done more so for more sales rather than to enhance the experience in any way. I mean, they don't refer to Birthright, Conquest, and Revelation as 3 separate games, rather 3 paths. Hell, the back of the box calls it the complete version of Fire Emblem Fates, so it makes far more sense for everything to just be on one cartridge.
Right? I told you. See? That is fucking so dumb. That is so fucking stupid. And it comes down to the collectors and the resellers just being batshit insane, because the different versions of that game are probably not nearly as expensive combined.
Yeah,
There's literally a box and a fucking sock that you can catch your load in, and they're selling it for fucking $1,000.
I'll take my chances with the ROM from Keith.
I mean, or whatever. It's just like,
Whatever.
if you're going to play the game, that's great. Persona 4, one of my favorite games of all time. I have the fucking solid gold edition. You look at that thing and it's around these prices. It's around these prices for it. I pieced it together and I finally had it. And there's few of them out there. But every once in a while, I realize that thing is just a box. sitting on my goddamn shelf that makes me happy to think that that one thing existed and it's cool as shit. But there's someone out there in the world who has to have every PlayStation Vita thing ever in existence, and they are going to pay out the ass for that thing.
Jesus.
If they can find it. And it's just like, dude, what the only reason that they do shit like this is not to give you a cool experience, not to make something that's super neat, but to make a limited edition special release of something that people are going to fucking go to war over to try to have.
Yeah, I mean...
It does nothing but inflate the market on something. This is a video game.
Yes.
There is an end to it. And it's good, and it's great, and you play it, and then that's over with, and you can get a poster to remember it by or whatever. But this shit right here is just, I mean, it's price gouging.
It is. And the fact that people do this, and it's baffling to me that people indulge in it and accept.
Well, it's not worth that. That's the thing.
No.
Do you know how many copies of that there are? If there was like 5 and they were selling them for like $10,000 or something, that would make total sense to me.
Yes.
Because there are probably thousands of those out there. Thousands and thousands. Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. The price for them complete right now is atrocious. It's a mainline Pokemon game. Do you know how many of those there are? Untold numbers. I mean, just so many. It is not a rare game.
No.
That is not a game that's hard to get. It's expensive to get now, but there are sellers who have multiple complete copies of it. And the reason why is because it is not rare. It shouldn't be that expensive.
No.
The demand for it is not there.
The one that I saw that blew me away in terms of just how prices exploded on it was there was a Hot Wheels PC that Shanks Mods was working on. He was trying to basically get all of the pieces of it together, and build a complete set for it to work. And then Linus, completely just out of curiosity, was just like, I will pay an X amount of money to somebody for a complete version of this Hot Wheels PC. And unknowingly, Linus basically inflated the market, and Shank basically talked about how prices for speakers and keyboards and cases and all that, the markup went from regular pricing to over 800 to 1,000%.
Dude, influencers, I'm going to go ahead and say it, have fucked up every fandom. Every single fandom they have, and it's the ones that are the worst are the resellers on YouTube, who are like, look what I did, and every product they touch, a price tag pops up, and look how much money I made off this that I found at Goodwill, and this and this and this, and it's just like, dude, the people who want these things, who actually just want to have them, and it means something to them for whatever reason, don't give a fuck about that, dude. I have so many Pokemon cards that had I sold them 6 months ago, it would double the amount of money that my collection is worth. Now it's not worth nearly as much. I don't give a shit. I never wanted to have those things because of how much value they had for someone else. I wanted those things because of the value that they held for me personally. But the people who flip stuff and resellers and shit that are all over YouTube, and it's always video games and cards and stuff like that, that they're just going on about how much money they're going to make off of them, have completely fucked collecting any kind of retro shit up for people who actually enjoy it. Like, I don't know how many times I've seen gaming YouTubers be like, I am done collecting retro games. It's just over for me. Why? Because it's not fucking worth it anymore. It's not. It will bankrupt you. Your GameCube collection, just those games right there, I would hate to know how much that collection's worth right now.
Well,
it would be hundreds of dollars, I'm sure.
The ones that I would say were the most difficult to find, I would say are probably Eternal Darkness, Luigi's Mansion, Black Label, because everyone's selling their greatest hits version. They're not, or the collector's choice. But again, the one that I had that I know if I would have wanted to sell it, I could have sold it for a pretty penny, was the version of Melee that I have.
Yeah.
Which, seeing that and just being like, damn, dude.
Persona Revelations and Innocent Sin now have like doubled at least from what I paid for them before. And they were already grossly overpriced.
Yes.
Now, dude, there's no way.
In hell.
There's no fucking way I would ever be able to buy them. And I feel disgusted because I don't... Innocent Sin is okay. Persona Revelations is one of the most dog shit games I've ever played. I mean, it is totally awful. And
it's not good.
It is not good. And that game is just so expensive. It's stupid. It makes no sense. Well, I know that one was underprinted and underrepresented, and there's very few of them, especially complete, which that makes sense to me. But as far as like being a good game and something that some people should actually want, it doesn't make sense why people want them that much. Because there's better prints of them. The PSP game is much improved. It's been done better since then, so it doesn't make sense to me, but here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are where Fire Emblem for the 3DS is $1,000 if you want the complete version of it. Why?
Complete new in box. Yeah.
I don't know. Or even $699? Are you fucking kidding
look,
me?
This is from the same seller too. He has a brand new one for $1,000, and he has a new other with complete in box for $650. So, because this one hasn't been opened, it's $350 more. Basically, an extra markup of over 30%.
Yeah.
Stupid.
I'm salty.
I don't make the rules, I just enable them. For the most part though, Nintendo keeps this release strategy exclusive to Pokemon, because frankly, it's the only one that's really been proven to work. Hell, they even tried it with spin-offs. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon used to be a dual release, with the first entry having one on the Game Boy Advance and the other on the Nintendo DS. Red Rescue Team and Blue Rescue Team. You know, it's kind of cool how the box arts connect this way, but by themselves, like, what's selling you on this?
Oh man, I always wanted Squirtle to look down.
Most of the differences come down to Blue Rescue Team being on the DS, not how these games were designed around being separate releases. Touchscreen support, utilizing the dual screens, the DS screen aspect ratio is different, the music and graphics can be slightly different, and there are exclusive Pokemon to each version that you can unlock in the other version with a password. Why are these two separate games? It is pretty interesting how they're on separate handhelds, but that also makes it harder for them to interact with each other. Connecting two Game Boy Advances couldn't be simpler. Same with two Nintendo DS's. I don't even know how to somebody, let alone make this work. So, Red Rescue Team players can connect to other Red Rescue Team players. Same with Blue Rescue Team players. You can connect Red Rescue Team to Blue Rescue Team by plugging the game into the DS's GBA slot, but you can't physically connect the DS game to the GBA game, so if you want to do that, you have to use passwords to trade version-exclusive Pokemon, which you can just look up online. Can't really blame them for the lack of communication between the two games, as being on two different systems will do that to you. But this feels like they were making this game for the Game Boy Advance when... damn it, put it on the DS for a multi-platform release, but decided to be cute, and they gave each version a unique twist. They also crucified my productivity for the past 3 minutes. Mystery Dungeon continued to receive dual releases until Gates to Infinity on the 3DS, which was just one standard game. Then when Red and Blue Rescue Team were remade on the Nintendo Switch, they were combined to just be one title, Rescue Team DX. That's what happens with a lot of series. They try this out until eventually giving up and going back to what worked originally. Case in point, Yokai Watch, one of the biggest games on the Nintendo 3DS. It took Japan by storm in ways not seen since Pokemon's debut, which was just the beginning of the comparisons between the two franchises. I mean, both are RPGs, both are about kids collecting and befriending unique monsters, both launched a huge line of merchandise, anime, movies, manga, spin-offs, so really, what's more similarity gonna do? While Yokai Watch was just one game, Yokai Watch 2 released similarly to any other Pokemon game. Two titles. I can just imagine all the kids on the playground debating, what do you prefer, bony spirits or fleshy souls? Neither! The differences are like any other Pokemon game. Version exclusive yokai in each one, plus they eventually did a third version, much like Pokemon. They used the dual release tactic again for the spin-off Yokai Watch Blasters and Yokai Watch 3, but only in Japan, as when the game was localized, they just released one game. You know, that's probably due to a number of
Wow.
different things. The series was suffering from a decline in popularity alongside the game launching in North America in 2019 on the Nintendo 3DS. That's damn creepy. So, like, why put out two versions of the same game for a handheld in fundamentally its last year of relevancy in a series that was also fundamentally in its last year of relevancy? I assume Nintendo, who published it outside of Japan, said the same thing and took the third version of the game and just localized that. Yes, third version. As I've already discussed, that's oddly enough a common theme with dual releases. You put out two versions at the same time, then sometime later, you put out a third as the definitive release. After Pokemon Red and Blue came,
It's like now with the Ultimate Editions, or Complete Editions, or the Game of the Year Edition.
Yeah.
I love those. You know, it's like has all the DLC included and everything. It's like for me, the Mass Effect trilogy. I remember when they released that, and I was just like, I gotta get that. That's got everything, and yeah, it had like, all the DLC, all the extra missions and everything for all three games, and it was so good. And yeah, there's just games like re-releasing them. I can understand if you're re-releasing them on a new platform. For instance, God of War, I can understand why you would re-release it on PC.
Yeah.
Because that's a big market. And that's a huge market for you to make more money, because you're basically opening up the floodgates for an entire segment of the gaming population who is completely unaware of how awesome God of War is.
Right.
Also, God of War Ragnarok. I'm hyped for that. I'm extremely hyped for that. I can't wait to play it. Anyway.
in Pokemon Yellow, which has a couple gameplay, story, and
Yeah.
graphical tweaks, which is what most of these versions consist of. Third versions would often follow each Pokemon game, and then we got Pokemon Black and White. Obviously, the third one's going to be Pokemon Gray. But then they thought, well, why not make the third version's dual releases themselves? Bam! Pokemon Black 2 and White 2. To be fair, these are full-blown sequels to Black and White.
Yes.
Yeah, just better
That's
versions of
one
them.
thing,
So,
at least.
sure, doing this makes sense. But hey, Pokemon X and Y released? Surely there'll be a third version titled Pokemon Z. I mean, no, they made a follow-up to the anime based on Pokemon X and Y titled Pokemon XYZ. Surely this is gonna happen.
Don't give your hopes up.
Instead, we just got a flat-out new set of Pokemon games 3 years later. Pokemon Sun and Moon. Now, those included special moves you could perform called Z moves. Okay, well, now you're just teasing me. After Sun and Moon, rumors spread about a third version titled Pokemon Stars on the Nintendo Switch. Instead, we got Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon on the 3DS 1 year after Sun and Moon, enhanced with some alterations from the originals, just like most third versions of Pokemon before. It's just now they found a way to turn that third version into a dual release in of itself. I mean,
I don't understand why you have Sun and you have Moon. Why would you not call it Pokemon Eclipse?
Yeah, that
Something
would
like that.
that would have been cool.
Like-
That's when I fell off, like really fell off. Like X and Y was my attempt to try and get back into the Pokemon games,
And yeah,
and it was okay. And then Sun and Moon came out, and I was just like, I'm not happy about this. I did not like the games at all, and but then the Switch titles came out, and I was like, okay, I like these. Yeah, the Switch definitely revived my love of the Pokemon games.
yeah, and I know that Arceus is.
I'm at the very end of that game. I'm about to beat it, and it's like a revamped game. It's not a mainline Pokemon game. It's the Legends series,
Yeah.
and it's its own thing, which is fun. But there are a lot of differences to it, and I hope that with the newer Pokemon games, Scarlet and Violet, I think, are the next ones.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that they take a lot from Legends Arceus.
And well, again, Pokemon's needed to evolve for quite some time.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that this is the way that they
Yeah.
do it.
and they remade Pokemon Yellow for Nintendo Switch and turned it into Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. They turned the third version of a dual release that was meant to be just one game into two games. Who knows what else they're capable of? Dual releases are interesting when you analyze them, especially when you realize they mainly only ever worked for Pokemon. Because there's a slew of other games that attempted the same damn thing, and they all flopped because what did they do? exists. Austin Powers, Oh Behave, or Austin Powers, Welcome to My Underground Lair.
Oh man, should I breathe or hydrate?
These games are fundamentally simulations of each Austin Powers character's computers with a few minigames available within. For the time, some of this can be a bit novel, like how there are video clips from the movies and how a very limited parody of Windows is in your pocket at all times. After you make room. But when it comes down to the gameplay, it's just minigames that are only slightly different across both titles. Like, have you ever dreamed of what the extreme differences would be like between Austin Powers and Dr. Evil playing rock, paper, scissors? I am so sorry. What, Othello? Pac-Man? The only game that's different across both titles is the final one. In Oh Behave, you get a platformer, and in Underground Lair, you get a reskin of another Game Boy Color game by the same developer, Evil Knievel. Looking at the back of the boxes,
Jesus.
4 of them? They were planning 4 of these games? Who else would they have based them on? This fucking guy? Everything about this feels forced.
No.
Felt like they only had 3 months to make an Austin Powers game, and they wanted to do a multi-game release at the height of Pokemon's success because as much as I like Machop, I always wished he was Dr. Evil instead. Going into a release not only shows the intention by the publisher to just ride the coattails of another game series success without riding the right coattails, but doing a minigame collection like this shows they wanted to make money and fast. You can't tell me this wasn't done because it wasn't the easiest way to get a game out. Case in point, Crash Purple and Spyro Orange for the Game Boy Advance.
A crossover between Crash Bandicoot and Spyro, where this is a Crash game with Spyro's main antagonist as the enemy, and this is a Spyro game with Crash's main antagonist as the enemy? And Fungus? Honestly, that's a really cool idea, and a great concept and reason behind making this a dual release.
So why does this still elicit fear? This is a minigame collection disguised as a platformer. You run and jump around these levels.
This is again after Naughty Dog and Insomniac were no longer developing these games, and it was basically on their studios that picked them up, and the studios that picked them up were cheap, ineffective, and mostly shit. I hate to say it, but it wasn't until here recently, and they remade the originals, that they were like, oh, so this is what people like. Okay, let's go back to this. Because I remember they did that for the Crash Bandicoot games, and then they released Crash Bandicoot 4, which is amazing. Crash Bandicoot 4 is a great platformer and
tough
a great game. Very tough, but that's what you'd expect from a Crash Bandicoot.
Oh God, yeah.
And
brutal.
Of course, Spyro. If they ever go back to making another Spyro game, I would hope that it would be, follow the same format as the remake, and basically just update the controls and everything. And
right.
There's a remake that's on its way out that I was at first concerned about. Then I saw the gameplay trailer for it, and now I'm convinced that it's also going to be really good. The Dead Space remake, which by the way, I'm going to be waiting for that one to come out before we play it for Scaredy Kate. Because that one is downright terrifying.
Nikki played Dead Space 1 for 3 minutes.
And she said no.
Never touching it again.
Oh, the fact that she's played through the Resident Evil games with you, that's saying something. And the remake, and there's another game coming out by the original creators of Dead Space. They've moved on to another company. It's called the Callisto Protocol.
I've heard of that.
That looks gnarly, man. And the fact that both games are releasing within the same time frame, I think Dead Space remake comes out in late January, and I think Callisto Protocol comes out in late December of this year. That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a lot of fun. I can't wait. By the way, we're doing Scaredy Kate still, so Kate was feeling better by the next time we recorded, so yeah. She was sick during the limbo recording, and she didn't let us know until after because she didn't want to ruin the recording session.
Wow.
And I was like, Kate.
What a trooper.
Yeah, exactly. She is a trooper. And she stuck through it. The guts on that woman.
where your goal is to find portals to play the minigames. That's all this damn thing is, just a bunch of random minigames stitched together through basic-ass 2D platforming hub worlds, because, guess what? That's easier and quicker to produce than actual platforming levels! So instead of making a legitimately gripping and awesome crossover between two legendary franchises that have always been close to each other ever since their debut on the PlayStation, we got games created just to have appealing box art for toddlers. Oh mom, I picked Spyro Orange! Why? Because why did you pick that? Bomberman delved into this release strategy with the Bomberman Max games. One you play as Bomberman, the other you play as Max. Who the hell would pick that one? Want to play a Bomberman game? Yeah, on one condition. I don't want to play Bomberman. But the character that dove headfirst into this shtick was Mega Man with the Battle Network series.
Yeah.
I mean, the first two games here, no problem. Standard-ass titles. Then starting with Battle Network 3, wow, it's almost like there's 8 games. Close. 9. Like, my lord, this was a lot. Even without the dual releases. 6 games on one console? Yeah, but still.
I mean, they did.
Yeah,
They pumped
did.
out a lot of the Mega Man.
Yeah, Capcom had a great dev team at that time, and it was led by I think it was Igarashi, the main guy over the Mega Man series. Hold on. No, not Igarashi. Igarashi, let's see. Igarashi. I hate this CAPTCHA thing. Hold on, I'll just... Let's look at... Inafune, sorry. Keiji Inafune. Igarashi was Castlevania. Yeah, let's see. Yep, Koji Igarashi. There he is. Sorry, everybody. My mistake. Wrong franchise.
Followed by the Star Force series, and that consisted of 3 games spread across 7 in total. Now, of course, considering these all to be separate games is hyperbolizing things a bit, I do agree. Except when Capcom puts all the Battle Network games in a collection, they say all 10 Battle Network games and count the dual releases as individual games.
Ugh.
Man, I'd love to talk about the differences between each of the Battle Networks here, but after researching it, as somebody who's never experienced this series past the first entry, this is all gibberish to me so far. That's the problem. How is there not an immediate official resource on what's different in all these games most of the time? How do you expect me to pick between them? Thankfully, some games make it pretty easy. The game Nier released here in North America as just that, Nier. But in Japan, it launched as Nier Gestalt on Xbox 360 and Nier Replicant on PlayStation 3. The idea was that both consoles got basically the same game but with different playable protagonists, with Replicant having a younger character and Gestalt having an older one. Other than that, they're basically the same game, so while I think it's a creative release, it's kind of pointless, especially...
I know that they also did that with the Onimusha series, because they did. They had Onimusha on the PlayStation, and then they had Genma Onimusha on the Xbox, but it came out a little bit after because they had a little bit more dev time.
Damn.
Especially considering they released on different platforms. I mean, that's still
I
pretty
miss the
cool,
Onimusha-
but most people
Onimusha
only have
series.
one console or the other. And in Japan, most people only have one console or, dear God, anything but an Xbox 360. So the element of the dual release, being choosing which version you want, isn't as prevalent here, as most people just get whatever released on the console they own. When it came to North America, they just brought over Gestalt and released that on PS3 as well, though Replicant did finally make its way over here in the form of a remaster for PS4 and Xbox One, and they still find a way to confuse the hell out of me. Doesn't take much, though. You know, the whole Nier situation reminds me of something. That I'm going to die one day. These Zelda CDI games. Link the Faces of Eve.
Not these. Oh,
Are you going to be okay?
the pain.
You need me to hold you?
The pain.
You need me to check your prostate?
No.
Oh.
Instead, just look at me and say, it's not canon.
It's not canon. It's not Ganon.
Oh shit. Okay, it's not canon. It's not canon.
Evil and Zelda Wand of Gamelon are dual releases. Some of the earliest, to be exact. Back in 1993, these launched on the same day and share gameplay mechanics, presentation, the works. Which one would you pick? That one. Outside of Pokemon, it seems that dual releases have died down considerably, and for good reason.
Excuse me, Scott.
Because why? This always felt like it was done for marketing and monetary purposes rather than to enhance the gameplay. Because in the end, I feel like most of these launch strategies ended up blowing up in these companies' faces. But hey, we're starting to stray further and further from the traditional Pokemon format because there are so many more forms these games can take.
Can you say, hey, all Scott here? My therapist never recommended me to do any of this.
Why would I waste a Hail Scott here on that?
Because I'm scared what's going to happen.
It's just Sonic Boom.
And Genghis Khan was just a fucking guy.
You have different games on different consoles in the same series on the same day. Assassin's Creed Unity and Assassin's Creed Rogue, Sonic the Hedgehog and Sonic the Hedgehog Genesis, Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric and Shattered Crystal. Man, this is not going well today. Looney Tunes Acme Arsenal and Looney Tunes Duck Amuck. These have absolutely nothing to do with each other, but they gave them similar box art and released them on the same day. Is there any benefit to releasing these games on the same day? I feel like putting two Assassin's Creeds out at the same time makes it less likely somebody's gonna pick up both. If you release them like a month apart, that would give the player time to beat one and move on to the next, or save up their money to buy the next. And
Also, Unity had so many bugs.
Oh.
So many bugs. There was one bug, dude. It made the skin of the face literally just like disappear, and all you saw were teeth just going like, hello, how are you? And just eyes, just these eyes in the middle of the void just staring at you.
Creepy bastards.
Oh, absolutely creepy.
goal of Sega to release two games called Sonic the Hedgehog on the same day. Sonic Boom would always advertise itself as a game coming to both Wii U and 3DS, and when it launched, they were two completely different titles. I don't get it, man. I do think staggering releases can be good for games like these, so players don't have to make a choice. But since these games are each on different platforms, they may be done so those with the handheld or the last generation systems don't feel left out on the big new game's release date. Oh, thank God. But when they put out two volumes of a game that should just be one full one on the same day, like, man, Atari Flashback Classics Volume 1 and 2 on PS4 released on the same day. Don't even try to defend that. You couldn't put everything in one package? The same with Mega Man X Legacy Collection. Like, come on, guys. You just overcomplicate this stuff. In some ways, this is more complicated than the traditional Pokemon like dual release. Or with that, it's not as much about having to buy two games to get the full experience. It's just about making the choice yourself. Either way, I'm in hell.
There you go.
What the scars?
Mr. Wozniak, please see us after class. This was an amazing video talking about just the whole rigmarole with dual releases and triple releases and octuple
Releasing the release.
Yeah, I have a release for most of the video game companies out there that they can have a good thick bite of.
And it stinks.
Yes. Anyway, that's gonna do it, everybody. This was Dual Releases by Scott the Woz. Y'all want to see more from Scott? Click his name in the title of the video. If you want to see more from us, hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. Be sure to check out They Call Me Hat Guy. This dude right here got his own channel and everything, but you all probably knew that because he on the rise. Him and Nikki both.
Hey.
So until next time, everybody. Signing off. I'm Nate.
I'm Chad.
I'll see you, everybody. Peace.